Hello students, I'm Damini and we were dealing with the transport as per ICSE syllabus. We are doing this on behalf of personal tutors. Now, yesterday we had been discussing about the transport, what is its significance, why we really require transport, and then we had discussed about the roadways. While discussing about roadways, we discussed about the different types of roadways, the advantages and the disadvantages of the roadways. Now, mainly when you are reading this chapter, you need to confine very clearly yourself to the advantages and the disadvantages of all the four types. Today we are going to deal with the next mode of transport, that is railways, which is also a land mode of transport. So we are discussing about a mode of transport which is on land and we are calling it railways. You are familiar with word railways, what it really means. You might have had experiences of traveling in railways, how it is, whether it is long distance, whether it is short distance. But then when we speak about railways, you need to know that it is the world's largest employer, that the railways employ the largest employers of the world. How our country, the railways work is that the entire railway network is divided into 16 zones, and then each of this zone, like they have suppose Western Railways, okay, the western side of a country is divided into one zone called as Western Railways. You must have often seen on the wagons that carry goods or the passengers, it's written Western Railways or Eastern Railways. For Madhya Pradesh or somewhere in central India, it is Central Railways. So what they do is they divide the entire railway system into 16 zones, each having their headquarter. And then these zones are further divided into divisions. You must have heard about DRM, Divisional Railway Managers. So each of these are divided further into districts, and then that is how they do the functioning of the railways. But then when we discuss about zones, and we need to understand what kind of railways run over here. I mean, what kind of railways I mean with gauges which are popular in these. So when we speak about railways, you need to understand an important word there is the gauge. When we are saying about railways, we are speaking about an important word, gauge. Now you have seen a railway track. It is like this. So the distance between this one and this one on the railway track decides the type of gauge. How much is the distance between the two railway tracks? We say patri, and on that patri, how much is the distance between both of these is called as gauge. So based upon this gauge, there are three types of gauges. Broad gauge, where this distance is 1.67 meters. Okay, 1.67 meters if it is the distance between the railway, okay, between the two railway tracks, not tracks actually, this is a whole track, between the two, one track, between two of them, then it is called as broad gauge, which is a very common gauge in India. Almost 85% of the goods are transported through the broad gauge. That means the distance between the two on which the rail runs is 1.67. This is maximum in a country. I mean, maximum all over the world. 1.67 is called as the Indian gauge. Okay, it is called as the Indian gauge. There is also below this 1.3, 1.4 in different countries. But our country has the maximum distance, that is 1.67, and that is called as the Indian gauge. The rail is running on an Indian gauge. And this is the most popular one because it can carry, depending upon the traffic, depending upon the number of passengers and depending upon the traffic, this is the most widely used one. Many of the meter gauges have been converted into broad gauge. Okay, but the determining factor is not just whether it is a broad gauge or a meter gauge. The determining factor is the terrain of a region. If a region is mountainous, very mountainous and a hilly region, then narrow gauge can be used. That means I'm saying that if the region is mountainous, if it is a mountain region, then what kind of gauge we are using? We are using narrow gauge. Highly mountainous region is narrow gauge. That means this distance will be 0.75. It cannot be 1 point something. This is 0.75. And this is generally in a highly hilly regions, like we have the Darjeeling Himalayan region, okay, or a place in Haryana, Kalka Shimla region. Generally, you must have heard about these. Like these have generally toy trains. The narrow gauge region generally has toy trains. Their engines are comparatively smaller. So we call them as toy trains, and they are generally found in the hilly regions. People go around them with looking around the beauty of the region with these toy trains. So we call them as toy trains. Darjeeling Himalayan region, Kalka Shimla is another railway line which has this toy trains. We are calling it as narrow gauge. In between these two, the width is around 1 meter. In between these two, the terrain may not be completely plain, but a region where the gauge, it may not be a complete, where broad gauge may be not very comfortable, and we call it as meter gauge. The distance is 1 meter. We have UP, hilly regions of UP, Bihar, Assam. Some of these regions have meter gauge. Okay, the distance between them is 1 meters. So you have broadly read about railways are divided into zones. They have never asked the headquarters, but they can. Then broad gauge, meter gauge and narrow gauge. And you need to know that most of 85% of the railway gauges are broad gauge. Okay, now look at the advantages and the disadvantages of the railways. When we look at the advantages of the railways, when we speak about the advantages, they are cost effective. Okay, they can carry heavy bulky goods, especially if coal and iron can be carried by them from one place to another. So when we speak about advantages of these railways, they are cost effective. Okay, they carry the heavy bulky raw material from their source where they are produced to the production units. Okay, carry heavy bulky goods, carry heavy bulky goods from their source to production units, and from production units they carry the whatever is produced to the back to the market. Okay, so the advantages of railways is that they carry heavy bulky goods from one place to another. Second thing that you need to know, cost effective. Then you need to know that railways, they unite people from different parts of the country. That means from one corner you are going from Bombay right up to Bangalore, you are meeting people from different cultures. You are meeting people of different different culture, different living style. So they act as a unifying factor. The railways act as unifying factors. So this is another advantage of the railways. When we look at the disadvantages of the railways, when we are trying to look at the disadvantages, we say that they cannot be laid everywhere. They cannot be put up on they cannot be laid on every place. In hilly regions, the tracks cannot be laid. That means they do not provide door-to-door service. They are confined to their certain regions. They cannot be spread beyond that. Secondly, when we speak about the railways, they are expensive to set up. So their cost of construction is high. Constructing railways is not a cheaper, the cost of construction is high. But then during the time of calamities, there are times when the railways help us in carrying defense personnel from one place to another, or the army and the police from one place to another. Thirdly, when you speak about railways, those which used to run on coal earlier, now most of them run on diesel. Those which run on coal used to create pollution. So those running on coal would create pollution. And then you have a next one, that is the railway journey can be long and tedious. It can be long hours of traveling and it can be tedious, tiring. Okay, though they are, as if you have to travel long distance, there is also the comfort that you can move around in the railway, in your wagon. So the journey is long and tedious. If you are traveling from Delhi to Bangalore or Delhi to Kerala, the journey is around 2 to 3 days. I mean, roughly 36 hours. So that staying in the train is a long journey. It can be tiring. But at the same time, it can be comfortable if you are going with small kids. It can be comfortable at times because you have a movement as compared to airways or the roadways. You can move around from one place to another. As compared to that, it is more comfortable. So this is what all we had to discuss about the railways. You need to know at least the 3 advantages and at least the 3 drawbacks. Advantages we have already discussed. They can be comfortable. If you are going along with children and you can easily move around, there is space to move about. Then we said it is cost effective. It can be useful at the time of calamities. So carry bulky good from their place of source to the place where they are being produced. this was all that we were discussing about the railways. Let's look at the next means of transport, that is the airways. Now you all are aware of the airways, what kind of transport it is. The airways are maintained by the air transport in a country is maintained by the Director General of Civil Aviation. This is the organization. Along with this, these people are helped by Airports Authority of India. Airports Authority of India helps them in the transportation of goods. Now when we speak about air transport, it is very popular, or it is very useful in the northeastern region. When I am saying northeastern region, I mean to say this Assam and this region, which is a hilly region. So even in inaccessible areas, the helicopter services can help. In this area, the air transport is necessary because this is a highly mountainous region. You are familiar with domestic and international airports, airports which cater to the demand of the people to travel outside our country, and those which cater to the demand within the country. So we have international airports which are made with the bilateral agreements between the country, a country and the other country, and similarly we have the domestic airports which are within the country, inside our country itself. Advantages, when you look at it, is the fastest mode of transport. Air transport is the fastest mode of transport, and this transport is also used during the time of calamities. Whenever there is a calamity, air transport helps us during that time. Maybe the helicopters help us in lifting people, and okay. So fastest mode used during the time. When we look at disadvantages, it's an expensive mode. Of course, nowadays we have private airlines in our country, so these have made some of the within the country the air travel has become a little cheaper, but then it's an expensive mode of transportation because it has a limited carrying capacity. The carrying capacity of an airplane is limited, and then it is dependent upon the weather conditions. Other than this, the weather conditions determine whether the plane will fly or whether it will not fly. So this is what you need to know about the air transport. When we look at waterways, the waterways can be divided into two parts. One is the inland waterways, and the other one is that is inside the land. We are calling it inland. On the sea, the coastal. So in this, what you will mainly remember is the rivers in the southern India are not navigable. They are not the ones where the movement of goods can be carried on. This is basically because the rivers are seasonal, and then they are full of rapids and falls. There are not only seasonal, rapids and falls. There are waterfalls here. You are going on a river, and then there is so which cannot happen if you are going on a boat. You cannot take the risk of suddenly coming down. Okay? And it is seasonal. So if there is no water, you cannot go further. So they are seasonal, and then we said that they have rapids. But North Indian rivers are navigable. In North, the rivers are navigable, and they have been given designated as National Waterways 1. That is, say, they are generally Ganga, Haldia. this is on a National Waterway 1. So on the Ganga river and on the Brahmaputra river, the rivers are these are navigable rivers, and here the inland water. But then inland waterways is not really much developed. There can be problems like why it has declined, why inland waterways has declined. They frequently ask you this question: why inland waterways has declined? They ask you this question. So the rivers are seasonal. This is one reason. Then silting of the riverbed. Second one, silting of riverbeds. There is less water on the river, and the river has more of boulders, stones. The river has dried up. So silting of the riverbeds because of some construction activity, maybe because of the hydroelectric dams or some of the dams, there is silting of riverbeds. So that is how the importance of inland waterways has declined. The other important question is here is why are the southern rivers not navigable? Then they ask you objective type questions like, when we come to that further. The other part is the coastal waterways. Here they ask you objective questions like, name a riverine port. So riverine port is Kolkata. You are familiar with the word port, okay? From where the goods can be carried to another country, and these are called as, so our country has 11 major ports which is being managed by the Port Trust. 11 major ports in our country, and these are managed by the Port Trust except New Mangalore and Tuticorin. These two ports are not managed by the Port Trust. So Mumbai is an important port. It has got along with it a subsidiary Nhava Sheva, from where also supporting port along with that, because it has a lot of load over here, so it has got a supporting port. Now when we look at the major ports, remember riverine port Kolkata and court free trade zone, free trade like is the Kandla. Okay, there's two things you need to remember. At least, of course, the busiest one, they can ask you the port on the western coast, port on the eastern coast. They can ask you questions like that. Other than this, now what are the advantages of the coastal and the waterways? One is that it is the cheapest and environmental friendly mode of transport. Cheapest in the sense that even heavy bulky goods, though it takes many days to transfer the good from one place to another, the heavy bulky goods can be transferred through the ships. Okay, travel by ships can be comfortable. Because you have space to move about, you can move from one corner to another. So that is another thing. Travel by ships can be comfortable, and it is a fuel efficient. I mean, it's an environment friendly way of traveling. But then it's a slow means. You may take 15 days to 20 days to travel from one place to another, and also that it is dependent on the weather conditions. The ships are dependent on the weather conditions. So that is another drawback of waterways. With this we finish with the part on transport, and probably we'll begin with the topographical sheets in the next class. Thank you and enjoy your day. सर इसको